Certain people are losing their minds right now. You look at an undefeated two-division UFC champion like Ilia Topuria, and half the internet thinks he can jump into a boxing ring and knock out bona fide pound-for-pound legends. In my opinion, it's madness. Because if you look at the stats and the facts, the data paints a really clear picture. Now, before he steps up to defend his lightweight belt at UFC Freedom 250, on the lawn of the White House against Justin Gaethje, we need to have a serious talk about the politics of the UFC. Just kidding, that's a conversation for another day. But we need to talk about what actually makes Topuria's hands so effective. Welcome back to The Fight with Tom White. Today we're breaking down the hidden geometry of Topuria's footwork, the invisible grappling shield that makes his boxing work, and the cold, hard reality of what happens if he actually eventually steps into the squared circle with Terence Crawford. Probably won't happen, but it's fun to talk about. Forget the flashy KOs for a minute and just watch his feet. So Topuria maps out the octagon like a mathematician. He never crosses his feet. If he moves left, his left foot goes first. Basic stuff, right? But his real cheat code in the pocket is the V-step and pivot. Because backing up in a straight line in modern mixed martial arts gets your calves kicked off or gets you put flat on your back. But Ilia Topuria completely bypasses that problem because when he throws a jab, he plants that lead foot and he uses it as an anchor. And instead of backing straight out, he pivots his whole body around that anchor, swinging his back foot out to the side. So he instantly changes the angle, slides right out of the counter-attack lane, and leaves guys swinging at mid-air while Topuria's right hand is already cocked and ready to fire back. And then there's his defense. I mean, try using a traditional Floyd Mayweather-style Philly shell in the cage. You'll be eating kicks and elbows all night and the rest. But Topuria borrowed heavily from the Mexican boxing style, so think Canelo Alvarez. And he tweaked the shoulder roll for mixed martial arts. So he doesn't just hang out behind his shoulder. He uses it as like a split-second shield during like crazy, fast-paced, in-the-pocket exchanges. Just go and watch the Josh Emmett fight. In that fight, Topuria would fire a heavy jab, completely expecting Emmett to throw a looping overhand right back. The kind of shot you don't really see in normal boxing in the modern era. And used that exact momentum to load up his own return fire. And also, he loves going downstairs, so he digs these brutal hooks into the liver and solar plexus until guys drop their elbows to protect their ribs. I mean, it's classic boxing, to be honest. I mean, Ricky Hatton, rest in peace, he used to do this all the time. Once those elbows drop, the chin is wide open and game over. But here's the thing that almost everyone misses. You can't look at Topuria's boxing in isolation. You can't look at it on its own. His striking is that deadly specifically because of his grappling. We're talking about a guy here with an elite level Greco-Roman wrestling background and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who I think tapped out his first 7 professional opponents. In a pure boxing match, you can slip and weave and duck and dive all you want. But you do that in the UFC and you'll get kneed in the head. It's worth remembering that Topuria has a ridiculous 92% takedown defense. Guys know that they can't just wrestle him to shut down his hands. Even worse, they're terrified to throw their own heavy shots because they know if they overextend, Topuria will just change levels and dump them on the mat with a takedown of his own. That threat completely freezes them up, forcing them into a pure striking match, exactly where Topuria wants them, where he holds all the cards. But this isn't just my opinion, like the numbers back this up. He lands almost 5 significant strikes a minute, while dodging 64% of everything that comes his way. So he's dropping guys at an elite rate without relying on his chin to bail him out. And you only have to look at the run that he's been on. He shut off Alexander Volkanovski in the second round. He stayed completely composed while Max Holloway tried to drown him in volume, finally getting him in the third. Then at UFC 317, he stepped up for the vacant lightweight strap against Charles Oliveira. Topuria had just split from his longtime coaches in Alicante and built his own team in Madrid. People at the time were saying that it would ruin him, but he stayed disciplined and shut down Oliveira's chaotic style and knocked him out in, I think, under 3 minutes. I mean, we've seen legendary strikers in mixed martial arts before. Junior Dos Santos, Nick Diaz, Conor McGregor, more recently Peter Yan. Like, objectively speaking, they all brought something special. But when you break it all down, Topuria executes the mechanics of Western pugilism more flawlessly, in my opinion, than any fighter in UFC history. So why wouldn't he beat Terence Crawford in a boxing ring? Apart from the fact that Crawford is technically retired, obviously. Well, Topuria actually said he'd knock Crawford out with the first punch he lands. And in return, Crawford told him to put down the drink, something that Daniel Cormier actually agreed with him on. But all jokes aside, a clinical look at this hypothetical matchup tells you that Crawford dismantles him. So Crawford is a 42-0 generational freak. He's undisputed in 3 weight classes, a truly remarkable accomplishment. And just last year, he moved up to super middleweight and outclassed Canelo, the bigger guy, and not exactly a limited boxer himself. Crawford stands at 5'8", about 173 centimetres, with an extraordinary 74-inch reach, which is about 188 centimetres. Topuria, on the other hand, is 5'7", or 170 centimetres, with a 69-inch or 175 centimetre reach. So Crawford's 5-inch reach advantage in the hands of an elite outside fighter is an insurmountable mountain for an advancing MMA pressure fighter, in my opinion. Plus, Crawford is the best switch hitter in boxing, arguably. He downloads your timing, flips to southpaw, and changes the geometry of the fight the second that you lose your balance. For context, he threw 92 jabs in a single round against David Avanesian a couple of years ago. A welterweight record, I think. Many of those jabs are on the back foot. Take away Topuria's calf kicks and he can't close that distance. Topuria's MMA stance is built to stop takedowns, meaning that it's too square on for pure boxing. I think Crawford would just step outside Topuria's lead foot and just pump left hand straight down the pipe all night. Ilya's shoulder roll works wonders on looping MMA punches, right? But Crawford would just touch that shoulder to find his range and then just send an uppercut through the guard. Honestly, I think it would be a slow, methodical beatdown ending in a late stoppage. But there's no shame in that. Like I said, Crawford is a one-off and Topuria is chasing the biggest money fight and you can't blame him. I get it. And I'm not saying that Ilya wouldn't do well against a guy in a comparable boxing weight class who's ranked maybe as high as somewhere in the top 10. But Crawford? This isn't the heavyweight division. The truly skilled boxers on the planet are found in these kinds of weight classes. And I don't think an MMA fighter, even a truly brilliant striker like Topuria, can handle that kind of skill gap. But we really shouldn't be grading Topuria on a hypothetical boxing match where he surrenders half of his tools, right? The guy is an undefeated multi-division MMA champion. You can say that he took the sweet science, stripped it down, and perfectly rebuilt it for the most comprehensive combat sport on the planet. Because let's be real, in a street fight, I'm going with the MMA guy 95 times out of 100. But in the ring, the smart money is always on the specialist. So as we gear up for UFC Freedom 250 at the White House, the betting lines have Topuria as an overwhelming favourite against Justin Gaethje. The data shows that Gaethje absorbs over 7 strikes a minute, and Topuria's coach knows that kind of defensive liability is exactly what his guy loves and thrives off. So that is why I'm going with the Matador. Anyway, Topuria doesn't need a crossover fight to validate his legacy. He's doing more than alright in his own sport, and long may it continue. A truly fantastic fighter, and definitely one of my favourites to watch. But as always, let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.